Well, to paraphrase the Gipper, Wizards of the Coast,
There you go again.
I'm starting to think that at the turn of the year 2023, Wizards of the Coast was secretly turned into a 1980s John Hughes comedy. I can't shake the feeling that there's an Andrew McCarthy-esque figure pulling the strings somehow up in Seattle, trying to spend every bit of goodwill the company's ever earned in some cockamamie scheme to impress the girl he's head over heels in love with. It's as sound as any other theory, right? How else can you explain a company that shot themselves in both feet with the OGL fiasco, laying the groundwork for their competitors to take a significant part of their future business? They followed that up with their executive VP of D&D, Kyle Brink, engaging in shameless virtue signaling by saying that white men couldn't leave the hobby fast enough. Oh, and just an update, Kyle Brink has not left the hobby. They held a disastrous content creator summit where they found out that the leftists they cater to seem to hate the company even more than normies do these days. Then they inexplicably decided to go into hard-ass mode once more and send the Pinkertons to strong-arm some poor YouTuber to recover a box of Magic the Gathering cards that got sold a little bit before street date. And finally, it's back to virtue signal mode by changing Aragorn's heritage in a recent Magic the Gathering card from Numenorian to South Central Gondorian. That's right. They blackwashed Strider to score points from the likes of rotten-toothed imbeciles like David Levitt on Twitter. This is all in about 4 months. That is an ambitious litany of failure. That would have Joe Biden saying, "Well done." Wizards of the Coast is simply echoing a much larger phenomenon, which most of us are already painfully aware of. Somewhere around the early 2010s, liberals realized that most of the social battles they'd fought for were pretty much done and over with. But that created a problem. Tons of lazy people with inflated egos and nothing but time felt that they had single-handedly saved society, and now they had nothing to do. So they simply morphed into even harder leftists and pretended that earlier social battles, which much better people had fought, never even happened. Hollywood's perpetual leftist radicalization was now going to be joined in force by attention-seeking Facebook soccer moms, Instagram thoughts, and Twitter twinks to, I guess, save black people once more. Because getting saved by northern white men the first time around just wasn't quite good enough and created a little bit of a problem. While the rank and file hold down the social media front, Hollywood, and entertainment in general, including gaming companies, they've pursued a different angle. The most profoundly uncreative, creative people thought that the solution to winning the Civil War 2.0 was to simply swap out white actors and characters for black ones. Yes, the entertainment industry is now essentially donating characters for the poor unfortunates to consume, like a tweed jacket they grew out of long ago. Honey, this Strider doesn't fit anymore. All right, I'll drop it off at Goodwill on the way home. Maybe some black guy will get some use out of it. Of course they do this because they're the most racist people God ever put on this earth. But they also know that these characters still do have some resonance with Whitey, and are actually hoping that there's going to be enough dust kicked up that they can brush off the usual monikers anytime someone points out how silly and self-serving this all is. Through it all, I feel bad for the average black person, who probably senses something isn't quite right. Like they're being handed free blankets that might need a little extra cleaning, if you know what I mean. And that is, of course, what the goal is. Consciously or subconsciously, the destruction of culture and innovation by taking the laziest, and in some ways the most evil way out. And we know evil cannot create anything meaningful, after all. It can only destroy what others have created. If you think about it, it kind of makes perfect sense. The left is increasingly adamant that every group they consider marginalized, that is, every group that's not a straight white male, can only be written or created by a member of that group. Hollywood screenwriters have always been an incredibly white lot. As I've demonstrated in a recent video, Wizards of the Coast and the other major Seattle gaming companies are almost entirely white. By their own rules, they can't really create original black characters, lest they be accused of cultural appropriation. But there's nothing against any of these folks from vandalizing something that's already established as being white. We know that sort of destruction is applauded by at least half the country these days. Hence we get things like Black Ariel, Black Joan of Arc, Black Jimmy Olsen, and yes, now Black Aragorn. It's almost pointless to argue that Aragorn was described as having pale skin in The Lord of the Rings. He was, of course, and everyone knows he should be white. And that's just the point, that everyone knows he should be white. So when virtue-signaling cowards like Wizards of the Coast deface the character with a lie, they know people are going to react with some outrage, which they can easily churn into anti-racism goodwill. In some cases, maybe even some of that sweet ESG money. They also know that the cumulative effect is for people to eventually just accept this sort of thing. Normalization, as the commies say. Whether white people accept it isn't quite as interesting to me as it is if black people accept it. If they do, then they really are buying into the fact that the best they can do is get the scraps that the left throws at them, so that they can be kept in bondage by the same party, the same ideology for another 150 years. And what a shame if that's the case. Collectively, I think we need more original stories and more original characters. White and black both. I mean, do we really need to keep reliving the same stories repeatedly? I loved The Lord of the Rings, the books and the movies. And of course, we should point out all the time how ridiculous and embarrassing a black Aragorn is. But if the owner of the estate and the license don't seem to care about these things, maybe it's time to ask yourselves how much you should too. It might be time to move on. You can't fight every battle out there. You have a limited amount of energy. Fight some battles, sure. But instead of fighting them all, try to focus some of your energy on creating things. With Comicsgate and the OSR, we're already sort of creating a parallel entertainment economy. And it's only going to grow as the Bud Light effect reaches more and more people. Look, the creative mainstream is becoming a joke. And the death of an idea or a movement is when it is overwhelmingly laughed out of the room by normies. When it becomes tragically unhip. We are slowly but surely getting there with things like Black Aragorn, that cultural Marxism tries to shove down our throat. So point it out, sure, but don't let it consume you. Fight it with humor and creativity of your own, as well as the indignation that it deserves. Well, that's all for today. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Remember, if you're not subscribed to the channel, consider doing so. We'd love to have you on board. And if you think this video might resonate with someone, go ahead and share it out. It can only help, right? All right, you guys take care and have a great rest of the day. We will talk very soon. Hey there, it's your boy Double D, and I want to tell you about a great offer from our friends over at Neckbeardia. That's right. We all love James and Megan, and I am happy to say they love us too. That's why they are offering a 10% discount on everything in their store just for my audience. If you haven't done so already, check it out at the link in the description below. They work with a fantastic 3D artist to offer you miniatures with detail you have to see to believe. No need to print anything out. They will take care of that messy and smelly business on their end. All you need to do is pick out your next character or the next group of monsters your party is going to fight. They also have some pretty hilarious subclasses for you guys that are still playing 5th edition, all for less than a cup of coffee. They have adventures, Atomic Punk 2160 by the Basic Expert, t-shirts, and a lot more. Why not support people that don't hate you? Use the promo code DND10 for 10% off your order, And remember that shipping is free for orders over 50 pounds. That's just a little bit over $60 US. Visit them today and don't forget to use the promo code DND10.
What qualifies you to be a U.S. Senator? You have 60 seconds.
Hi, good night, everybody.